2 years ago, Marilyn Manson returned with an album that nobody could have taken for granted. After years of controversy, upheaval, and uncertainty surrounding his career, Manson came back in 2024 with One Assassination Under God Chapter 1. It was his first studio album in 4 years, and it felt like the beginning of a new chapter. But it was only Chapter 1. Now, 2 years later, the story continues. On August 14th, 2026, Marilyn Manson released One Assassination Under God Chapter 2 through Nuclear Blast Records, and that raises the obvious question, was it worth the wait? This is Manson's 13th studio album featuring 9 tracks, including Unalive, Don't Answer the Door, and the rest of them, which I will be talking about. But first, let's talk about this album. So once again, Manson worked with longtime collaborator Tyler Bates, who co-wrote and produced the album. Bates has become an important part of Manson's sound during this era, bringing a cinematic quality to the music that fits the darker, more atmospheric direction. Rather than completely reinventing what came before, Chapter 2 continues the musical and conceptual world established on the first album, combining Gothic rock, post-punk, industrial textures, electronics, and heavy guitars. The title is important too. Manson has described the album as the completion of this particular story, saying, "This completes my story." He also talked about using the stones thrown him to sharpen his edges and emerging from what he described as purgatory. So this isn't simply a collection of songs released 2 years after the first album. It's being presented as a conclusion to a particular era of Manson's career. With 9 songs and nearly 43 minutes of music, we're finally ready to hear how that story ends. So let's go track by track and see how this album sounds and do the songs deliver. The album opens with Unalive, and immediately you get a good idea of what Manson is doing here. There's a nice combination of electronic textures and heavy guitar riffs, but underneath them are strong elements of post-punk and Gothic rock. At the same time, there are moments that take us right back to Manson's classic 1990s sound. Vocally, he moves between whispered and sinister vocals and much more aggressive screams, while multiple layers of sound give the track a dense atmosphere. And then there's the catchy post-chorus, "I'm the only enemy you'll ever need." It's a strong opening statement and immediately establishes the dark theatrical mood of the album. Don't Answer the Door takes things in a more subdued direction. It begins with clean guitars, whispered vocals, and electronic sounds before settling into that post-punk and Gothic rock influence. The thumping bass and keyboards create a real sense of suspense, making the song feel like it's constantly building towards something. Eventually, the intensity increases and heavier tones emerge, but Manson mostly maintains his restrained vocal approach, saving the screams for the end. It's a slow burn, and the payoff works because of that restraint. Then we get to a front toward Enemy, and this one caught me by surprise. It starts off almost sounding like Manson's about to launch into a thrash metal song before transitioning into his more familiar sound. This is one of the heavier and darker tracks on the album. It combines his classic style with the more modern direction he's been exploring while still incorporating those post-punk elements. What really works is the push and pull between the different sounds. The song can be restrained one moment and explosive the next, and Manson gives us plenty of vocal variety to match. All the vilest things bring us 1980s Gothic rock influence more prominently into the mix. There's some excellent layering here, particularly the acoustic guitars sitting underneath the arrangement. The distorted electric guitars remain more in the background, helping create the atmosphere rather than dominating the track. That combination of acoustic and distorted guitars gives the song a distinctive character and makes it one of the more memorable moments on the album. None of the songs immediately reminded me of classic Sisters of Mercy, particularly because the thumping bass paired with clean guitars. It's a very classic Gothic rock combination, and Manson uses it effectively. His vocals are also closer to the classic Manson sound, dark, subdued, and sinister, without needing to rely on screams. There's also a great lyrical moment with the line, "All the moons and none of the suns." It's a simple phrase, but it's memorable and perfectly fits the atmosphere of the song. Lucifer's Teardrop continues with the post-punk guitar sound while bringing back more Manson's darker vocal styles. There are a lot of interesting textures underneath the main arrangement, including feedback and keyboard sounds that give the song an unsettling atmosphere. Manson also uses some low-register spoken vocals before the track gradually builds towards the conclusion, where he finally unleashes some screams. Once again, the album relies on that effective combination of tension, restraint, and release.
I'll be looking down at you forever.
The Arsonist continues the dark tone, but here the bass really drives the song. The distorted bass provides a heavier foundation, while the guitars create noisy, abrasive textures around it. Manson also shifts between different vocal styles throughout the track, keeping the performance unpredictable. Lyrics talk about having lots of bridges to burn, which fits perfectly with the destructive imagery of the song. By the end, the track becomes heavier, with harsher vocals pushing the intensity even further. Then we get to Exit Wound, which might be the track that best connects the different eras of Marilyn Manson's sound. There's a strong 1980s Gothic rock influence mixed with a sound that defined Manson in the 1990s. Bright keyboards sit alongside heavy, almost nu metal style guitar riffs, while industrial elements remind you of the sound Manson has been known for throughout his career. The song also shifts between softer atmospheric sections and more intense passages with aggressive vocals. That contrast gives the track plenty of movement and makes it feel particularly classic. Finally, we get to Enantiomorph. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The closing track begins with a spoken section. It sounds like someone leaving a voicemail, immediately giving the impression that we're approaching the end of something. Then the music emerges, built around haunting piano and Germanic vocals. The drumming is particularly effective, while layered vocals add to the theatrical atmosphere. Even here, those Gothic and post-punk influences remain present. There's also a line that really stood out to me: "The sky can't fall forever." Coming at the end of an album dealing with darkness, destruction, survival, and transformation, it feels like an appropriate final statement. Enantiomorph doesn't simply end the album, it feels like it brings the journey to a conclusion. After 2 years of waiting, we finally reached the end of the story. Was Assassination Under God Chapter 2 worth the wait? After listening to this new album from beginning to end, I think the album sounds just as good as the first chapter. The tone and atmosphere is very similar to Chapter 1. You've got the Gothic and post-punk influences, industrial elements, heavy guitar work, electronics, and Manson moving between restrained vocals and more aggressive performances. And I think that's actually one of the album's biggest strengths. Manson and Tyler Bates don't try to completely reinvent the sound established on the first chapter. Instead, they continue developing it, making Chapter 2 feel like a natural companion to the previous album. In fact, listening to both records back to back made me wonder if they could have worked it as one large double album. Instead, Manson chose to release them 2 years apart. I'm not sure exactly why, but actually I like the result. You can put on Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 back to back and listen to them as one extended experience. And that's probably the best way to describe Chapter 2. It's not a radical departure from the first album, but it doesn't need to be. It's a solid continuation that expands on the sound and atmosphere established 2 years ago. For me, that makes a very successful second chapter. So my final score for One Assassination Under God Chapter 2 is 8.5 out of 10. And that's going to do it for my review. Now check out this playlist featuring my 2026 album reviews. Should be appearing on your screen right now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think of this new album, One Assassination Under God Chapter 2. And I'll see you in the next one.